Okay. Legacy. Okay, so let's start with the most obvious choice. Typically, when people such as yourself do movies like this, in the past, I have found that it's based upon the fact that it's been a personal experience or something they themselves have done or have engaged in. So, was this more of a personal project? Meaning, had you had a transplant, know someone who had a transplant, etc.? Where is the bloom, the blossom for this whole story coming from?
Actually, no, I have not. Um, the idea of the story, my husband and I make films together, and we've
Yes.
been doing it for like 15 years. And he came up with the idea, and he kept thinking about it out loud, and finally I wrote it. I was like, okay, let's just write it and put it out there and see what happens. So,
Mm.
um, but no, neither one of us have had that experience.
Gotcha.
So,
Now I have to bring up a point because you see my partner is sitting right next to me. And so of course I know you work with your hubby. So here's a fun fact or fun question, I should say. Is there ever a point where you guys are making a movie together and you're like, you know what, you need to go over to that side of the set or like leave the house tomorrow and not
yeah.
come back sort of thing? Because I'm like, sometimes it's a problem.
Yeah, yes, it is. And I mean, it's gotten easier over the years, I think. But yeah, some days I'm like, okay, I don't need to be on set right now, do I? I want to go.
I get
So,
it. No, I do.
yeah,
I totally get that, of course.
yeah.
And you, of course, to everybody that's listening here, certainly you are a writer. So talk to me a bit about the process of everybody has a process, myself included, when it comes to my writing. Was this a project that flowed rather well for you? Because I know sometimes some of the writers that I speak to say that the more sensitive the project, meaning the subject matter, it's much more difficult. Sometimes they start crying, they stop, start, that sort of good stuff. How challenging was it to put the words on paper for this?
Um, Sorry, it's been a couple of years since I've written it, so
Oh gosh, I'm
um,
sorry.
no, that's okay. Um, it actually, I I always start with like the most basic of the story and then go back and put more into it. So I think that's what I did with this one. Also, if I get stuck, Ben also writes, so we have a tendency to pass scripts back and forth, and we both add to it. So
Nice, very, very
yeah,
nice.
yeah.
And I think it's fair to say all of us are kind of going through a few things in society right now. So tell me a bit, because I haven't been able to write anything up until these panels. It's been a while since I've been able to constructively write. Has it affected your ability at all in terms of everything going on? Because some people seem to be, they've got two, three
Yeah,
films they've written, et cetera, right now. It's crazy.
right. Um, I think, speaking of differences with spouses, my husband has been producing a lot. He does a lot of behind the scenes as well. And so he's been working on a lot of projects. And for myself, I've been more hibernating and not as creative, I think. More physically creative, more like painting and instead of mentally creative, I
Sure.
guess.
I understand. Talk to me a bit about the parents and the casting. I got to tell you, the dad is a hoot. I don't know why. It's always these certain subject people that are just like they stick out to me. And he was one. How did you find him? Where did you find him?
You know, we are pretty lucky. We're out of Dallas, and we have a group of actors that we've worked with for a while. They all went to the same films or acting school or acting classes together, and they're like this big family. And we often call to them, and we've gotten to know him over the years. John Anthony played the father. We've actually worked with him, and he's a amazing writer as well. And he has probably produced, I want to say he's on his eighth or ninth short film. And my husband and myself have helped him um, put those into actual film over the last probably 5 years. So that's that he's the dad, and so
Ah, I
that's how
got
we know John.
Sure, you betcha. Now, I am not an actor, although my partner is constantly telling me I could be an actress or I am an actress, but I'm like, okay. So I wonder when you were doing that scene with the couch, and of course, and she's talking about this legacy and her, keeping this heart alive, of course. How did you keep them from not crying? Because it looks like they really weren't crying. And I'm thinking to myself, how is this happening? You know what I mean? This heart-wrenching moment. They either are really terrific actors or I'm just really naive, or how do you pull off something like that?
Peppermint oil.
Seriously.
Peppermint oil, like right here.
Oh my gosh.
Just enough to get the tears going.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Look at that. My gosh. That's neat.
You have to be really careful with it though.
One of the things that we talked about at my last film festival at Bedford Falls was we like to get into a bit about the budgeting. Nowadays in 2020, it is even more challenging to come up with money to film. It's more challenging to find wonderful actors. You want to pay your cast and crew appropriately. You want to have enough money for everything and sets and all locations. So 2 questions relative to that. Back then when you did this, how costly was it? Because off the top of my head, I should know the budget, but I do not. And more importantly, with shooting in 2020, any good recommendations for Brandon or anyone else in terms of how are we going to pull off movie making with the shoestring budgets? Because things are very tight for everyone right now.
Yeah. We tend to do a lot of kind of trading, like with John Anthony, we will work on his films and he will come and act in ours. Sure. And things like that. As far as ones, and that was for Legacy, that's wholly how we did it. Everybody that we've worked with before, and it was kind of all like friends, let's get together and do this. As far as generating money, we are starting a feature right now and that we're in pre-production form. We're looking to put together investments so people can buy like shares of it.
Oh, nice.
But that's more for feature than shorts. If you can find somebody who's just really, really good at crowdfunding, I've personally have never been very good at it, but I know some people in the Dallas area and they're just amazing at it. So I think it's a talent that I wish I had, but I don't. So find somebody that you can work with that can help you with that. And then also if you can get businesses to sponsor you, on set with food or props or locations or anything like that, that's helpful.
You betcha. I forgot to ask you this question at the start off of this. Please introduce yourself because you have an active audience. Give this what I call the 30-second spiel. Your name, your job title, and what you got coming up in the future. That's always important.
Okay. My name is Renda Singleton. I am producer, writer. I have directed as well. I have been doing this for 15 years with my husband. I've done pretty much everything behind the camera that doesn't involve equipment, right? We have a feature, like I was telling you, that's in pre-production that we're very excited about. And then we have two horror scripts and they're working on a gangster script. So,
oh my gosh.
I know.
Holy mackerel. Did you hear that, Haberfelder? You got one right there. Michael Haberfelder specializes in horror. He's your go-to guy as far as that. That's all he ever does is horror. He scares me half to death. I love him to pieces, but he scares me. Now, I am curious to also ask you, because you're a female, and I don't want to turn this into a race thing by any means whatsoever, but I always it's really neat for me to get the take from women in terms of, some people come to me on the panel and they say to me, you know what, it's much easier because I'm a woman, because I'm comfortable and I wear multiple hats. So, it's easy for me to function on a set and do 100 things. And then there are some that struggle and say to me, hey, you know what, I'd like to get recognized more, or I struggle with getting respect in the industry. Where do you kind of stand on all of that? Like in your corner of the world, are you able to get the recognition that you feel that you've earned? Because you certainly have done 8 million things in your lifetime more than me. I can tell you that right now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dallas has a pretty small base of community. Even though it's as big as it is, everybody eventually meets everybody else. And I think that, I don't know, I think within the community, I get the respect I deserve. On some sets, um, depending on how well you know people, you do have to kind of go in and prove yourself
Oh
before
yeah.
you get the respect. And I think that's pretty common with men or women, frankly. If you show up to set and don't do anything, you're not going to get the respect that you think you might deserve. So
You betcha. Absolutely.
um, there's a big women in film group in Dallas. So I think that the presence is here already. So that helps a lot. So
Definitely. Oh yeah, I just dealt with a Texas filmmaker not so long ago. Absolutely lovely. Gem of a guy. I mean, super, super nice. You have a great arts community in that area. And I do want to get to Texas. It's been a while. Before I forget to ask you, if somebody is watching this Q&A panel today and they are considering getting into writing, producing, directing, any of the things that you do, what's the first thing you would tell them? Even if they don't have a lick of advice, I think it's hugely important to pass experience down to those that don't have it or lack it. What would you tell them right now today?
um, research.
Mm,
Research. You can go either way, right? You can go through school to do your research, or you can do it on your own. There are tons and tons of really good, online classes or filmmakers that have their own classes that are super helpful. And start building your network, which I am not a networking person. I will go sit in the corner as much as I can get away with.
yes.
So it's been a challenge for me, but it's really good to seek out people initially that can help mentor you, but then eventually that you can help mentor, because you learn just as much by teaching as you do by learning. And
Absolutely.
so I
You
think that's
bet.
helpful.
You betcha. Before I forget to ask everybody in the room, since you again have an audience, what did we think of her film? Anybody?
Thank you.
It was amazing. It was very
Clapping.
touching.
Yes, absolutely. You betcha. Habby, do you have a question for her?
No, I'm good.
Oh, he's good. He's just drinking, relaxing, and sitting and hanging out.
Yep.
Absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
Now,
it's almost one
Had
in
me
the morning
tearing up.
here. So.
I know the tearing up thing, right? It's like, oh my God, all these movies with messages and meanings and subliminal meanings. And I'm like, you're killing me right now. It's like, oh my gosh. But it's nice to be able to sit back, even though I mean, because I've had to watch these movies 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times, to pick out noms and everything else. It doesn't get old. Watching your movie does not get old. And I was very surprised by some of the judges and what they had to say. From what I can share with you and tell you, because I try not to give everything away, what I will say is I am pleasantly surprised at some of the results, the feedback in terms of how refreshing it was. It was deep, but not too deep. It wasn't too long. The cinematography was impressive to them. Audio was spot on. The casting was really good. There was very few flaws that they found. Your numbers were really good. You should know that.
Nice.
So it was impressive. Are you coming to the awards night?
Is it on Zoom? Because
Well, yeah, we're going to be doing this
Okay.
unless I find like a fancy dancy sort of place, because all the celebrities we have, everybody that's giving out awards this year is a celebrity, a recognizable, someone from TV,
Nice.
film, music, whatever.
Mhm.
So I think Zoom can do it. We'll have a nice little virtual red carpet that we're doing those 2 days, etc. But yeah, so it will be virtual. And of course, the
Okay.
nominations come out on Saturday. And I'm asking you on Sunday if you're coming or not for a reason, although I can't say. I
Okay.
think you should come. I think you
Okay.
should come.
I will.
Absolutely. You betcha. And I thank you so much. The only other thing I want to say to you is, again, I am indebted. You were such a very patient filmmaker, and you were so very kind and very responsive and got your stuff together. And I appreciate that so very much. It's so hard to try to pull this off. This is really weird for me. We're used to being in New York and Little Italy and having a live thing and a pseudo carpet, and I just feel like, oh my gosh, everybody's just hanging out in my living room, which is fine because we literally are hanging out in my living room. But, I think you deserve better, and I'm trying to do the best I can. So I just thank you so much for allowing me
Thank
to
you.
show the film and to taking time to spend with me and being on here and listening and watching all of their movies. I really appreciate it. And congratulations on the work you did. I can't tell you much else because last year I gave it all away. So this year I'm
Oh.
not. I'm zipping it. I'm not saying anything. Trophies are on their way, so we'll have to see. So thank you.
Awesome.